whether BLG can continue that, or if they will show us a return to some of the more lane stompy antics that they showed us in many, many series before, as we head into draft for game number 2.
All right, can you guys hear? Am I?
I hear you in Discord. Okay.
All right. All right. So it looks like we might be returning to the dog. What is going on with my webcam? I am so sorry.
It's all good, buddy.
And gentlemen,
We got the dog picture to have you covered. Let's walk through the draft.
All right, let's do just that, Mark. So we do see that Nocturne ban coming through once again from BLG. JunJia still going to be denied that global access, as well as HongQ. So the ban staying relatively the same for BLG, just making sure that HongQ and JunJia can't be on their comfort picks. JDG, on the other hand, targeting these solo laners. I wonder if we're going to see more focus paid toward Knight with this last ban because of how much of a performance we saw from him with the Victor, and the fact that there are still a bunch of strong mids open and available. If you do ban something like the Ryze or the Casio, that leaves the other one that you didn't ban open and available. So I think if you want to go for a trade, that might also be a viable strat. They leave the trade up with the Varus taken away, and BLG, having first pick here, could decide to go for a Casio or a Ryze open, or could maybe open up with a bot lane duo like we saw from game 1's draft.
With Jarvan and Nocturne gone from the jungle pool, there's not many junglers that scream, I need to be first picked. And I think you are correct in assessing that Cassiopeia is the priority champion that gets slammed for BLG. That being said, this champion is beatable. I want to echo K-Man's sentiments where he doesn't believe this champion is that unbeatable. There are counters to it. We know, at least in the West, where we have seen Kog'Maw as an answer, and the archetype that beats Cassiopeia is very, very long range. However,
Correct.
JDG, long range engage potentially with the Vi.
But still engaged nonetheless, and this is a composition that if they follow a similar archetype to the Vi, if Knight gets ahead, he could absolutely thrive against this. I mean, you're going to get so much value out of the Miasma and the Petrifying Gaze to make it harder for you to get on some of the immobile members of BLG. Cassiopeia as well will be rocking the Ghost, so should be able to run around in those team fights with impunity, to be able to have that strength in the early to mid game. Another shout that I do want to put out there, Mark, is the Olaf. We have been seeing a rise in priority for this champion. Would be good at answering the Cassiopeia. However, BLG do have the option of maybe trying to steal that one away, but it looks like they are concerned about giving Xun something early on, as that Nidalee hover was a bit of a red herring, and we're going to get the champion with red hair, literally, instead with the Misfortune.
I would lose it if Xun locked in the Nidalee, a
Monkey did it.
long-time favorite of his channel. Listen, man, I know, and I was jealous that I wasn't able to cast it, but
Same.
Zion Rakan alongside Misfortune, curious pairing, but without Nautilus there, this is potentially one of the next best combos you can at least pair. Rakan at least gives you a lot of flexibility in whether you want to peel threats away with the quickness, sitting right on top of your AD carry when they go for the dive, or following up on engages set by the rest of BLG.
So we are going to see a good amount of engage driven up there with the Rakan. Just gives more oomph to the bullet time, and also some more freedom and space making for Misfortune and Cassiopeia, who move quickly around the fights. Misfortune obviously having the strut, and then Cassio, Knight probably going to be taking the Ghost on this champion, so he will be a slithery snake around those team fights, Mark, as the Ahri going to be the response. Does give that pick potential along with the Vi. It seems like instead of JDG going for full-on engage, they're looking for pick compositions. Instead, they're going to try and catch BLG off on rotation, so I think getting a top laner that can allow you to have that priority and just unlock that top side for JDG to play more aggressively in that zone will be really valuable. And I think BLG understand that too. They're banning away the Vayne, and probably their second ban will be targeted toward another ranged top laner, potentially like the Jace.
Things that could help set up for a very safe Gnar for Bin, which JDG immediately sniffs out, takes away from the pool So now BLG can continue down the line of top lane champions that could be difficult for Bin, but if you're no longer setting up for Gnar, then curious what would be the next thing that you want to try and go for. I will say, you definitely don't want to pick Mbessa for Nekton is still up, so that is a good shout.
True.
We'll see what BLG decides to ban. I will say, Ahri and Vi were the winning combo for JDG in their game 1 against Top Esports in that upper semifinals. So trying to rely on some comfort here to give them momentum back in this series. The Olaf shout deserved as it is banned. That is something that Xiaoxu has played in the top lane and could have been definitely something that this Cassiopeia would have hated to try and play against.
I really like this Sivir lock-in if it does go the way of Gala. Gives you a lot of safety in the laning phase and on the hunt, just with a bunch of value to move JDG around the map that much faster, to pick off some of these stragglers on BLG if any of them are mispositioned. So value in the early game to be able to weak side and allows Vampire to roam up with JunJia and HongQ to make those plays as a mid-jungle duo, and also just gives you value in the late game as well. So good luck in there from JDG. BLG now, I think, want to try and play with a little bit more disengage. You've got the Rakan, you've got the Cassiopeia. Xin Zhao not only gives you the chance to have some bite back in the early game, but also with that ultimate too, you can knock away some JDG members trying to dive onto you. So I feel that that also has more than one use for the BLG comp. And we talked about the Renekton, we talked about the bans, maybe giving it an opening to be strong in this game if it wanted to be locked in, and it looks like Bin is going to deny that. This is a Xiaoxu special, so not giving it over to him feels like also having more than one use with this lock-in.
Yeah. Curious if Xiaoxu just slams Cassante, which is probably his next most known champion. Decent answer into the Renekton. You'll be a tank, you'll be a frontline, and for BLG, they really lack a true tank in this composition. And one of the things I want to point out here, Quax, is they have really strong disengage, they have really strong kite back for a majority of these champions, as you called out. The Rakan and the Xin Zhao can disengage fights, Petrifying Gaze can reset it. This Misfortune feels a little out of place because there's not the strongest Wombo setup guaranteed from this composition, because when Xin Zhao goes in, if you don't want to mess up the bullet time, you can't cast your ulti immediately upon going in. Otherwise, that splits them apart. You're hoping for a massive Rakan engage setup or a massive Petrifying Gaze flash to then follow up on that time. So we'll see how BLG wants to play this one out, if they are trying to keep things, once again, measured and disciplined like they did in game 1, or if they're going to try and push the pace here a little with things like the Renekton and the Misfortune as their side lanes.
For sure, and I think the Misfortune, even though we don't have the greatest of Wombo combo synergy with the champion, there's still so many space makers on the side of this composition. I mean, you're going to be getting that bullet time channel off regardless, so it's just about where you fight, in my opinion, that really matters for BLG. At these big, narrow, or rather in these small, narrow choke points, I think bullet time still has so much value because JDG are going to be forced to bottleneck to try and interrupt it. And that's going to be so difficult to do with the amount of disengage we've highlighted from BLG. But they are a pick comp. They have to try and make the picks onto Misfortune work. So my eyes are completely glued to what Viper does this game and his impacts on the MF and the bullet time damage that could be brought.
Defending champions, 1-0 in the series. We'll see if JDG can fight back for momentum as we hit Summoner's Rift for game 2. I think more people started showing up, Quax. Holy!
Yeah! We were breaking the speakers a little bit there. It was like peaking. So just goes to show how much support a series like this is getting. These are two teams who a lot of people expected to be facing off against one another at the highest of highs in the bracket, the first and second seed, hoping to return to that international stage. But now in the lower bracket, only one of them capable of moving on. And even then, you've got a treacherous road that you have to keep going for, as a lot of jockeying for HP bars being had here in the bot lane. Heal expended by both supports already, Mark.
Mm-hmm. And junglers are going to be having opposite clears here. Meanwhile, Knight hitting level 2, forcing HongQ super low! Knight takes revenge for the times that HongQ solo killed him back in Split 1 and shows him why he's the MVP.
You beat me to it, Mark. We talked about HongQ being the kryptonite for Knight in split number 1, getting the better of him so many times in the laning phase. Well, now it's Knight's turn to return the favor, showing the power of that Cassiopeia early and jumping out to an early lead for BLG.
It was something that was in the back of our minds going into this series, and something that we are very aware of. The very first time that HongQ plays against Knight on this JDG squad into BLG Split 1, and that shocked the world. The young mid laner coming over from the Flying Oysters. But it's this 1v1, Knight demonstrating the power of the snake.
And it's flash burn from HongQ as well, so no safety going to be there for HongQ until, or actually he does save the flash, so does still have the capability of dodging and escaping a gank. Meanwhile though, a Knight was forced to burn his flash, so could maybe leave an opening there for the Vi, as Tether is actually going to finish, so a good trade onto Viper. JunJia has finished up his clear and maybe wants to look for something on the bot side.
Good cover by JunJia, being able to at least force Viper back, but on now realizing that JunJia has cut off his escape route. Grand entrance on the Gala, tries to burn the spell shield, but the dive is pristine and super clean. JDG find a punch back.
Good macro there from JunJia to just wait until Rakan expends his mobility. HongQ doesn't want to repeat on the solo kill.
Oh, Viper gets super, super low. Vampire almost had the damage to finish him off, but it's like not even a barrier. It's just living on the skin of his teeth.
Pick up that wave though, crucially. So not a lot of gold going to be denied away from this misfortune. Still though, there will be a gold lead for Gala because he got that kill earlier. So an advantage going over to him nonetheless. As we talk about Viper needing to have good conditions going into this game as one of the primary damage dealers later on for BLG, probably the primary damage dealer for BLG later on. And a lot of the other power of these members for BLG comes in the mid game and the early game. We already saw that for the Cassiopeia. Bin, now that he is close to hitting level 6, once he has that dominance, will really start to checkmate Xiaoxu in the lane. Shun
Vampire attacked by Shun, but he flashes away from the ball breaker on, not tagged by the charm. JunJia on the other side forced to flash away as the rest of BLG show their strength and force away JDG members.
Good miasma placement there from Knight 2. Forces so many flashes like you've said, and maybe opens up the door for BLG to play a little bit more aggressively. We saw Shun walking up there willing to kind of take some damage in order to get a fight started and burn those summoner spells. Dragon is now spawned on the map, and I'm wondering if BLG want to move the needle a little bit and go for it, knowing that JDG have burned those sums. But Bin is taking a lot of tower shots.
Ooh, Xiaoxu is looking for the Q flash, but Bin reads it and flashes frame perfectly to escape certain death.
He's there for the Renekton. Still has the teleport, so we'll be able to get back to lane without missing too much, but still not a not the ideal situation for Bin to be in. Regardless, though, we talk about BLG maybe trying to punish those flashes, and so far, haven't seen too much of that come through. JunJia is getting closer and closer to level 6, so once you have that extra lockdown, I think JDG will have more strength going into this fight, especially onto Viper. There's that level 6.
It's got to be careful. As you called, JunJia hits level 6 off of the crab. The second game in the road now where JDG's bot lane is able to move first and play for JunJia's level 6 advantage. Now trying to use the cease and desist on the Viper. He tries to flash away, and he gets close enough to the turret where JunJia calls off the dive.
So Viper forced to use that summoner spell. Now BLG's bot lane is going to be significantly limited in where they can move, Mark. JDG have free reign over the bot side with JunJia having ultimate as well for that extra bit of lockdown. And they're looking to just flex it as much as possible.
Are they trying to bait this in? Shun is here to cover the dive. They know that JunJia does not have flash. Cease and desist still available. Finally sends it under the tower. Gala trying to tank the turret aggro, but JunJia is the one that receives the heated up turret shots. It ends up being a 1-for-2 trade and favoring Gala in the end.
And you can see some smiles there on the player cams of JunJia. A successful dive. He goes down, but he accelerates Gala even further on the map. 2 kills now over to the Sivir. And the late game threat that we know she is, trying to match the power of Viper, needing to be that powerhouse. And so far the Misfortune not given a ton of gold, killed under their own turret and denied about a wave of minions.
Definitely been a lot of heavy focus from JunJia towards the bottom side of the map. But I want to take a minute and scope out and remind ourselves that this is the #1 seed and the #2 seed from the regular season playing in the lower quarterfinals of this bracket. And one of the things that is just so bizarre about this is that we have not seen something like this happen since 2021 spring playoffs, where RNG and EDG found themselves in the lower bracket of that playoff run. Ended up being RNG victorious over EDG. Some familiar faces that are still on Summoner's Rift here from that roster. Gala, who was on RNG, and from the EDG squad, you had Viper. So they find themselves in a similar scenario, facing off against each other once again.
Bit of history there. Love that shout out, Mark. And I mean, for both of these AD carries, as hang on, Vampire has to be very careful where he steps. Takes a nice chunk of damage, so good there for BLG, but the wave clear from Gala is going to make up for that and give prio to JDG on this bot side. But does kind of feel like it would be a major disappointment for either of these teams to finish this low. Relative to expectations, they really want to get back to that international. And a end here would be a huge, huge upset just for their organization and what was expected of them going into split #2. And the fact that we are already here, I think, is just baffling. I know we've reiterated it multiple times on the broadcast already, but this is such a crazy predicament. This is such a crazy tournament that the playoffs have been putting on so far.
Oh, Viper might be punished here. No flash still on the Misfortune. Vampire trying to flash tether just to keep him in place, but the bullet time is enough for Gala and Vampire to back off and not look for lethal here. JunJia quickly shifts on over to the area, and once again, they are attacking this bot lane relentlessly, giving Gala so much gold, so many resources to put him in the best state possible to try and be that accelerated backline carry, whereas Shun will be able to look for the first objective secure of the game with all 3 of these grubs.
Been a little bit late, but better late than never. So JunJia gonna claim the dragon, and we talk a lot about the scaling power, particularly for these AD carry picks, and I do think that with game #1, where the dragons were such a crucial breakpoint for both of these teams, it was such a big subject around who we thought was favored and had the advantage in the game. I think JDG getting off to an early dragon start here is much better than BLG getting the 3 grubs, just for the fact that we haven't really seen a lot of pressure from BLG onto these turrets. They've only gotten 1 plate so far across the map, and it was Bin.
Yeah. Speaking of Bin, he is once again having a solid CS advantage in this lane matchup, other than the almost oopsie by him being pushed around by Xiaoxu. Both have now regained their summoner spells on the top side of the map, but they haven't really showed any inklings of trying to get active with the other side. We won't have another dragon spawning for another 4 minutes, as both of the first neutral objectives were secured around the same time. Night attack, but Petrifying Gaze stops JunJia in his tracks. Cease and desist allows him to follow up the play. Can Shun get in and save his mid laner? Yes, he can! Shun, the right-hand man of Night, bails his mid laner out and denies JunJia sweet play on Knight's head.
Jun swoops him like a guardian angel with a spear, and Knight survives. He's gonna pick up a plate for himself for good measure. HongQ, without that flash, without that ultimate, can't step up to punish this low HP Cassiopeia anymore. And a beautiful response there from BLG. JDG now forced to back away a little bit. JunJia with no flash, with no ultimate, and HongQ with no flash either. Leaves them so vulnerable to potential repeat ganks now on. Could look for something. We see that this Rakan is super close to level 6, so once that lockdown comes through from the support of BLG, I think then we'll start to see the tried and true famous on roams, as we do get a replay here. And this was what we talked about with the Cassiopeia. I mean, the Petrifying Gaze buys him just a little bit more space into these engaged members of JDG. And that little bit of HP that he survives on is in due to the ultimate making use against a comp like what JDG have drafted here. And now back to live, we can see JunJia maybe trying to get some revenge, invading on this bot side and trying to push Viper further back.
Rob might be denied here by JunJia, but Shun can at least try and look for the chase. Knight is already in hot pursuit down the river, but he is a snake without flash, and even with Swifty tier 3 boots, he does not get there fast enough for JunJia to feel threatened. He's able to back off in time. HongQ fishes for a charm of the wall, but Knight is quite tanky. Already 2 stacks on this Rod of Ages. Next objectives coming up in 2 minutes time between both the Rift Herald and the second dragon of the game.
Well, time used, cleared the wave, so good there from Viper. Now means that the dive option is no longer available for JDG.
Nice looking top.
Yep, he is.
Xiaoxu, can he find the angle to separate Knight with the wall? He just flashes immediately from the Miasma. Petrifying Gaze goes wide, but Vampire has been found by the trio of BLG on the bot side. JunJia winding up the Vault Breaker. Sends a fist right into Shun's face, but On is right behind him. There's no flash on JunJia. Got to be careful. Cease and desist, repositions onto the Rakan instead. Shun, can he get in? Battle Dance not going to keep him alive, and now Gala looks to hunt down Viper. HongQ trying to send it after, and now Shun, he's got Bin! He teleported into the fray, and now JunJia's on the wrong side of the tracks. At least takes down Shun before he tries and fight his way through Bin's Renekton. Xiaoxu now joining, allows JunJia to walk out safely. Knight trying to look for a collapse, and the fighting has gone so long, Quax, that Vampire's back on Summoner's Rift.
We do have the Karma here to provide some much-needed aid to the blinking health bars of JDG. Casualties on both sides, but overall, I think JDG Gaming happy with the way that play transpired. That tower for BLG, you can see, is on blinking health. Very, very crucially, BLG need to clear out this bot side river and then cheat up toward this area around the Dragon Pit. Drake will be up in about 20 seconds. No teleports on the top laners means that we probably won't see Bin get involved, as well as Xiaoxu. So it'll be a 4v4. And we still have Knight in a very strong position on this Cassiopeia. So he will be the big apex in that fight, you have to imagine. As going back to replay, Vampire just face checking. Shun on the redeploy goes immediately to the bot side. It's a nice punish from them. And then I love the snap engage call here from JunJia. I was a little bit concerned because the Celestial opposition mitigated some of that burst, and just the slipperiness of the Rakan could allow him to get away, but that last little auto attack from Gala does seal the deal. And then Shun is all alone. Bin is here, but doesn't have Dominus, so the Croc is significantly less scary, and it feels like it's a good response. But overall, now what we're going to have to see from that play, who is going to get the dragon, is the big reward after all of that.
Big target for BLG has got to be Gala. He is the majority of the gold advantage that JDG have on their team. Everyone else from BLG, the entire top side, has gold advantages over their counterparts. Shout out to Shun, 2,000 total kills in the LPL. He's gonna have to step up now for this dragon fight. JunJia tries to absorb the engage from Shun. Xiaoxu tries to use the all-out to get away. Dragon is secure, but now Shun is under attack, and he is gone. Bin tethered by Vampire's Karma. The bullet time slows down the engage for now, but Bin might be under fire. Great fall breaker flash from JunJia, connects on a 2. They find 9 in the backline, and JDG Gaming roar to life here in game number 2.
JunJia with the fist to the face on BLG. He's in their face and he knocks them down. It is a dragon over to BLG, but JDG, the overwhelming victors of that fight. Mid lane turret going to be a casualty. JDG will secure gold for themselves in that front. JunJia on the Herald. This is such a good punish from them across the map. They are getting advantages off that team fight win, Mark.
Dragon did go over to BLG, but JDG gets so much more. And this time around, it's JDG back on their strengths of a composition that is one of their clearest comforts, waiting for their moment to fight on back. And it happens after Xiaoxu baits them in.
It does, and I mean, look at the re-engage here. Bin and On go forward, that gives the green light over to the Vi. He goes right in, punishes Shun, and then Xiaoxu on the side manages to finish off the low HP Rakan. And then look at this. Flash Q, knock back, absolutely gorgeous. JunJia playing that fight to perfection.
The brief glimpse of happiness of securing the dragon, only then to realize, ooh, my team got wiped.
Yep.
Understandable from Coach Daney. JDG now have a 4,000 gold advantage here at the 18-minute mark, the largest that they have had this entire series so far. And when JDG's entire topside creates all that commotion, Gala is able to just rip them apart. Now, 3,000 gold ahead of Viper right now.
Yep. Hang on. Quickness pop.
Petrifying Gaze lands on a JunJia, and he gets a little too far forward without the rest of his team to back him up.
Yep. Going to be taken down there. JunJia, despite having a not super pretty KD ratio, has been the guy leading the charge in all of the fights. You know, it's selfish. It's selfless jungling, Mark. You and I understand that, right?
Something along those lines.
Yeah. So, I mean, something along those lines, but like, sometimes we have to play for ourselves now. JunJia has been doing, I think, such a good job at creating these openings for JDG in the skirmishes. The problem, though, I think does become when he gets a little too comfortable, when he goes up a little too far. Vampire is really the only person that can back him up. Those shields are going to be his only protection externally from the rest of his comp to support him in going further. So he's got to be really committal on those engages, and I just feel like little slip-ups like that, it gives gold over to BLG. Nothing too consequential going to come of it, but got to make sure that you shore those up, especially now with neutrals coming through here on the map. Baron gonna spawn in a little less than 20 seconds, but it is the Dragon, the second one for both of these teams that claim it, that could be making the difference. And it's Mountain Soul, crucially. We talk about the survivability of both comps in game number 1, and Mountain Soul is just going to make that all the more same in terms of importance going into game number 2 if the team can claim it.
For BLG, that Mountain Soul shield would be so pivotal to mitigate the upfront burst from the Vi-Ahri combo. For JDG, you give all those Mountain Dragons to Xiaoxu, oh, he's going to be a happy camper. Not only he's going to be even harder to try and destroy as BLG, but also, once he goes all out, he's going to get even more offensive stats. And being Xiaoxu's one of his top 2 comfort champions ever since he first joined the JDG roster in summer of 2025. Cannot disrespect him when it comes to that. On fishing, maybe not fishing for a pick quite yet onto Xiaoxu. He might need a little bit more reinforcements in that department, so he just takes his base as we set up for Dragon in 5 seconds.
The real pick onto Xiaoxu was the friends we made along the way. There is no possible chance that a Cassante with ultimate and flash, we are ever getting a pick on that guy. So BLG force a lot of members up toward the top side, and you can see they lose a lot of control on that bot side river. JDG's members are all in that area, and now are setting up for a potential trap onto them.
Boy. Bin completely picked off on the right side. Double slice and dice. Flashes from the orbit deception, but JunJia is able to track him down with a flash of his own. Shun trying to hold the line against Xiaoxu, but JunJia can look over the wall with the ball breaker. They immediately turn right onto Gala, but he flashes out of the bullet time. Shun tries to buy time with this crescent guard, but that time is going to be cut short. Knight and Viper trying to stand without a front line, and that's only going to get you so far as Gala continues to rip apart members one after another with those boomerang blades. Who cares about the dragon? It's time to secure the Baron.
Oh yeah, they're going straight for the big purple worm. Knight is the only one up. He's decently high on HP, so is probably going to try and stall this out just a little bit, but it is going to be really difficult. You are short range as Cassiopeia. Walking up to a comp like this is a fool's errand, and he unfortunately is not playing the fool. He's playing as Knight. He is going to back on away, and JDG going to secure themselves the Baron for the time being. And it just felt like a bit of a slip-up from the BLG macro we've been seeing so far in this series. Bin walks up, but he's completely isolated. JDG have all the control they could possibly want around this bot side river, and the Renekton just walks straight into the trap laid by JDG Gaming.
You have to credit JDG for the snap engages they have been able to pull off with this composition. We called it out. It was a comfort from their sole win against Top Esports in the upper semifinals, and they're able to demonstrate their mastery on it here in Game 2.
They are, and look at HongQ with the charm onto Viper. Huge clutch there to get that onto the AD carry of BLG. Just gives them one extra kill for their fights. And off the redeploy, we can see BLG didn't even get a chance to try and jockey for the Dragon. They're going to be forced to give that one up. It's only second Drake, so not the end of the world, but still, we talk about the tankiness. We talk about the durability of Xiaoxu and JunJia having the audacity to keep looking to start up these fights, and it is only going to worsen with them getting Mountain Drakes.
At least Knight has funneled some resources on the top side, but that seems like only a consolation prize for the fact that JDG take out both mid-tier 2 and bot tier 2, and now extending the gold lead up to nearly 7,000. There's a lone ward in that pit, but there's not going to be a dragon for another 4.5 minutes here, Quax, so that ward, I fear, is not going to get that much mileage for a TP flank.
Not really. And I feel now that the game has calmed down a little bit, Mark. One player that I really do want to talk about in this series, we've already alluded to him in the context of the 1v1 matchup, as we might not even have time to do that. Xiaoxu is being flanked, and he doesn't even know it. Knight and Shun are just sitting in this bush, but look at where the rest of the JDG members are. I mean, they're in the area. There's no possible way for you to pincer on this Cassante. Yeah, they're just going to back away. This is not a play, my friends.
TP coming in from Bin. Oh,
Unless
this is a deep flank from Shun and Knight. Can they collapse onto Gala? He has no flash from the Viper 4. Everything onto the Sivir. Viper trying to put in the damage with these dual blood pistols, and he finds it. But do they survive the re-engage from HongQ as he just soars, dips, bombs, and weaves all over BLG, looking for a potential penta, but Xiaoxu denies it. HongQ secures the quadra kill, and JDG with a massive swing in the series.
HongQ with a clutch re-engage for his team. It looked like BLG might get a pincer play to turn the game around, but HongQ finds the angle. A quadra kill for the mid laner of JDG Gaming, and JDG are looking to stamp their mark on this series. 9.5k gold up ahead of BLG. They want to tie up the series, Mark.
And it's almost to a 10,000 gold advantage marking point for JDG now in Game 2. BLG's chances, if you thought that there was any chance for hope for a comeback, that might all be dusted, as their best attempt to try and shut down this Sivir is achieved, but at a great cost.
I mean, they get all of this damage dumped onto the Sivir. It opens up HongQ to just run and dash and dip right into the fight. I mean, he's getting in melee range of a Renekton and a Cassiopeia. He is unafraid here, Raafaa.
Unlucky that the pentakill is stolen by Xiaoxu, but it is what it is. BLG.
Hit him with a question mark ping and move on.
My penta. We'll see if BLG can make one more final stand. Gonna be pretty damn hard. Petrifying Gaze onto JunJia. Decent damage, grand entrance, and the quickness. JunJia flashes over the wall.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Viper gets a big shutdown onto Vi's pockets. Big flashing forward. No way, they're turning this one around. BLG were down 10,000 gold, but they just took down 2 members in it's 2 seconds flat.
All right, and there's a wave coming through as well. HongQ and Vampire are really the only ones capable of defending. Gala is off to the side. The Sivir has no horse in this race, so for the time being, it is a 2v5. BLG turn the fight. JunJia, we saw it happen earlier, like 10 minutes ago, on that top side, where he goes and gets punished for it and overextending on this Vi, but now it is way more consequential because we're later into the game. He goes over the wall, and yeah, I mean, good punish here from Knight. Doesn't get the snare, or the stun rather, but gets the slow, and that's all they need. Bullet time to finish him off. And just a little bit of a mistake there. The positioning error from the JDG jungler does cost a couple of lives and a shrinkage of that gold lead that we saw from JDG just a few minutes ago.
Well, JunJia now has a GA, so if he makes another oopsie,
yeah,
he's got a second chance. Bin, however, I don't think he's got a second chance. There's TP coming in from Xiaoxu. Bin, no flash on this Renekton, double slice and dice, but the cease and desist should lock him down long enough for the rest of JDG to slide on in and make a belt out of that crocodile. Rest of BLG, though, on the cross map, trying to be as efficient as possible with trading objectives. Should be able to take out this tier 2 turret, or at least the majority of the plates, but now JunJia is hunting for more. No Vi ultimate available. Xun marking territory, trying to draw a line of vision here. Xiaoxu gonna face check first and force BLG to walk away.
They're not even going for the dragon. They're just going straight for the Baron. Xun has been spotted out by JDG, so they know the Xin Zhao is split from the rest of his teammates. They're starting up Nashor. Critically, Renekton is down for another 15 seconds. Bin has teleport, so BLG, if they can stall out this Baron, they can get a 5v5.
Xun, immediate flash onto the left, noticing that HongQ was separate, but he dashes out with a Spirit Rush. JunJia tries to invade and help take down on, and now it's a 3-on-5. Bin has teleport. He's going to join in the fray, try and provide reinforcement. Xun dodges the charm. It goes wide. Pressing guard, buys some time once again. Bin pops the Dominus, looks for Xiaoxu first, but Gala flashes forward, sees an empty jungler, can immediately go for the killing blow. Xun is down, and the rest of BLG are scattered. Knight tries to make his final stand. The Petrifying Gaze is great, but he cannot deal with every last member of JDG by himself. The solo laners of Bilibili Gaming are forced away, and JDG should be strong enough to look for the Baron.
All right, they're going right back onto the Nashor. Xun is no longer alive. I was thinking maybe after getting a couple of picks, it might have dissuaded JDG Gaming from going for the Baron, but they are not dissuaded in the slightest. They go right back onto the objective. It will only be 3 members repping the purple, but that's better than none. They're going to take their reset and redeploy onto the dragon once we go back to live, Mark. But before that, a replay of the fight here, and BLG know they have to stall out this fight, know they have to pull JDG away from the Baron. They find an engage onto HongQ to try and buy some time, but on gets snagged, gets CC'd, the Rakan goes down, and then JDG look to pull the trigger here. I feel like if they had just been a second quicker to try and take down Xun by the time Bin arrives, it would have saved them a lot more headaches for trying to finish off the last little bit of HP. Gala was forced to flash and then is in the middle of a Renekton, so does kind of feel like JDG need to pull the trigger a bit sooner. They still get the fight win, and back to live, you can see that they're on the dragon as well, so soul point will be acquired for them all the same. Still in the driver's seat despite BLG's kicking and screaming and unrelenting unwillingness to go down. JDG trying to tie this series up.
And the more these team fights play out, Quax, the more I really despise this misfortune. It feels so hard and difficult to make use of this pick, especially when you are constantly forced to kite back. They haven't been able to really find a solid wombo, and more of the times the bullet time seems to be more of a disruption ultimate rather than a pure damage ulti to secure a winning fight. Yeah, it's literally a zoning ulti. But JDG, while losing majority of that 10,000 gold advantage, are still at 7,000 and strong enough with Baron buff on their side to walk into the base. JunJia aggroed by Bin, able to regroup with the rest of his team. Bin trying to hold the left side. Charm and the Spirit Rush. The Croc is gone. Shun tries to jump onto HongQ, throws out the Crescent Guard, but On is the next one to drop, and so will Shun fall. And now HongQ ready to style on Knight like he did before. As Knight is now completely separated from the rest of his base, flashed on by JunJia, and JDG will erase any doubt there was had in this second game. I'm gonna say it, Quax. We got a series on our hands. JDG, tie us up 1-1.
And I would have it no other way. This is the first seed against the second seed. It doesn't matter where it is in the bracket, whether it is upper bracket or lower bracket, whether it is elimination or entrance into the grand finals. The match against these two organizations is always a banger, regardless of where it is, Mark.
Since 2023, the series total score, when it just comes to LPL regular season and Riot official international tournaments, the series score is JDG 12 to BLG 10.
Yeah.
Recently, BLG have won a majority of those matches, which is why they've been able to climb back up in recent years, and also heavily due to the fact that Knight, after being on JDG for 8 of those first match wins, tallying up the score, has at least given BLG, alongside the rest of that core roster, all of their more recent wins. But this just goes to show how back and forth these orgs have been over the years, how back and forth they remain today. And even though we know that BLG were victorious in the regular season recently against JDG, as well as first and semifinals and playoffs from Split 1, JDG still got hands. They still have their strengths, their bread and butter. And we called it out from the beginning, Quax. Vi Ahri. It was the victorious combo against Top Esports in game 1 of their series, and it proved successful once again going into BLG.
It did, and you know, you talk about the former JDG mid laner that is Knight, Mark, but I want to take a little bit of a look at the current mid laner for JDG, HongQ, with an absolutely massive performance in game number 2. You talk about the Vi Ahri as a confluence, but I think individually, after that first blood, HongQ really turned up the heat, and you loved to see it. A quadra kill for him on that top side play. And you have to keep in mind, we talk about the ramifications and what is on the line here for BLG, and Knight specifically being the first all-pro mid laner, being the MVP of the split, being the GOAT of the LPL, and making it back to an international, having a mountain to climb in order to achieve that. But HongQ has only been in competitive play for a year and a half and is yet to miss an international in that entire time span. He made it to all 3 internationals in his first year on CFO, made it to first stand this year. Missing out on MSI would be the first time ever he has missed out on an international, and he wants to keep that streak alive. A performance that he put on in game number 2 proves that he's still got the hands, he's still got the drive to get it done.
Yeah. That track record is very similar to Pei's when he made his debut on Gen G, and he was at, I think, almost every international up until he came over to JDG and missed out on his first not one, but basically year of international play in 2025. But back on T1, see if he makes it to MSI or Worlds later that year, which I have a...
No, please.
I'm not nearly locked in on LCK this year as I am most of the time, but I imagine that'll be the case. But enough about that, because as you mentioned, HongQ and JunJia linking up together, the duo from the Flying Oysters of 2025 that really put their name on the map. Obviously, JunJia has been known for being in the LPL formerly with EDG and a world champion, sharing space with JDG, sharing that role in 2021. Now, this time around, as you noted, HongQ on this Ahri, when he was given the space and the freedom to just annihilate target after target in the midst of these chaotic team fights, that is when JDG can thrive. And for BLG, I know we already spoke about the misfortune being kind of a mismatch to the rest of the composition, but I don't know if it was just the misfortune. To me, it didn't feel like it was just purely draft gap. There was definitely some execution at play that JDG were just straight up better in.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like one of the areas where we felt the execution wasn't there for BLG was on this misfortune. We talked about the importance of Viper needing to be this late game hyper carry and dishing out the damage with the bullet time. But then we were more used to ultimates like this, literal zoning ults from him, and every single time he ulted, or more often than not, he was punished for it. He's an immobile member against all the lockdown that JDG have, and just the fearlessness from JunJia into this game, Viper was never safe. And so it felt difficult for BLG to play protect on this misfortune with a literal crazy man in the jungle on the side of JDG, always willing to go forward, sometimes, Mark, to his detriment, but just providing such a difficult game for Viper to play. That late game damage never really came online for BLG because they weren't able to set up for it in the early to mid phases.
Yeah. And something that producer Ilya made sure that we got a chance to see from the official LPL broadcast is that they had a graphic that showed the meta trap, and I believe it was Mbessa, Yunara, and Cassiopeia with staggeringly low win rates. Cassiopeia, if I saw that number correctly, has yet to win a game in playoffs, despite the high priority that has been put on her. So, does that mean this champion sucks? I don't know. She's definitely strong for a reason, but 0 wins is crazy. As Gala gets player of the game, he got gifted a lot of resources, and he paid off that investment tenfold, being able to find multiple moments to flash forward and really brute force the damage. And it made BLG realize, guys, if we do not shut down Gala, we're going to lose the game. And by the time they made that pivot, it was too late.
For sure. And I feel it wasn't just Gala getting the kills early on, but it was also denying the resources from Viper. Even when this misfortune wasn't getting locked down, wasn't getting killed, I mean, we saw that JunJia was just camping the bot lane, was making it literally impossible for Viper to step up to that wave. So the denial of resources from one AD carry, and then on top of that, the stacking resources for another, just made the discrepancy between the two, the power influx and difference between the AD carries of this match, night and day. So definitely think Gala had his moment. We talked about the importance of him needing to get ahead in the 2v2s before the games started, Mark, and that is absolutely what happened here in game number 2.
Yeah. 8 for 8 from the LPL official broadcast team. I guess since HongQ got solo killed by Knight, despite his massive contributions, they didn't want to consider him as just like even like a honorable mention or something. But 8 for 8 for Gala. Okay, well, series is tied up, y'all. We're 1-1, and like Quax said, we wouldn't have it any other way. Both of these teams are fighting for their championship lives, their international dreams to return to the global stage, and only one of them can succeed in doing so. We'll see you on the other side of this break for Game 3.